Today's Inspired Money guest has been featured on Business Insider, Fox 13, and ABC News. Not only did this first-gen immigrant land a job at Google, but she's helped thousands of job seekers to land their dream jobs too. Episode 263 features Stephanie Nuesi, financial analyst, job coach, content creator.
The reason why it's important to create a brand and to have this many followers is not for the popularity. We're not in a popularity test here. We're not fighting against other famous people here. What we're doing is creating wealth opportunities. We are creating opportunities for paid opportunities, but we're also creating opportunities for others. So I create content about job searching. I help others land their dream jobs through the content that I share.
I'm Andy Wong, host of the Inspired Money podcast, where we share positive perspectives on money so we can make a bigger impact in our communities and in the world. This episode of Inspired Money is brought to you by Seeking Alpha Premium. Seeking Alpha is the largest investing community in the world. It has a portfolio tracker so you can keep track of the stocks and ETFs that you own, and you'll get strong buy and strong sell alerts. There's a powerful stock screener for finding new investment ideas. There are top stock picks from Seeking Alpha's quant system, and you can read what analysts are writing about your stocks. Start a free trial, and you'll get a special introductory offer by using the link inspiredmoney.fm/alpha. That's inspiredmoney.fm/ALPHA. Try it out and let me know what you think. I hope it can help you to manage your investments better, and your Seeking Alpha subscription helps support the Inspired Money podcast. We have Stephanie on the show. She's a first-gen Latina who came to the United States with a big dream. She's very open about sharing her failures and rejections on her way to successfully breaking generational curses. I met Stephanie because we were in the LinkedIn Creator Program together, and I was immediately impressed by her energy, grit, and hustle. She founded Max Up, a company that helps Gen Z and millennial job seekers, and she drives new clients through her significant social following on platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. You're about to hear how Stephanie not only has a day job in tech, but she successfully manages her very busy schedule to create content that lands her thousands of dollars in brand deals for sponsored content. In this episode, you'll learn about growing through failure, how social media can be monetized, and make sure you tune in to the end to hear tips for creating content on LinkedIn. Now let's get inspired with Stephanie Nuesi. Stephanie, welcome to Inspired Money. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Andy. I'm very excited to be speaking with you and everyone that listens to your podcast and see the conversation that we can put out today.
Let's jump right in. What's your earliest childhood memory of money?
My earliest childhood memory of money was growing up in another country. We had a very different idea of what saving money or money was as a whole. My mother was a very, I would say, entrepreneurial person. She had many different businesses. When I was growing up, I saw her doing everything and anything. And I remember she always told me, always save at least 20% of all the money I give you for your meals. And I never understood why growing up, like she would tell me that. But then whenever I wanted to buy something, she would say, do you actually save up when I told you to save from your meals? And that was kind of like something that I took up with me growing up, the importance of just like having money to be able to afford things that you want to afford at a certain point in life.
That's a valuable lesson. What kind of businesses did your mom have?
Yeah, she put together a store. So in New York, we call it a bodega, which is basically, she had her own bodega in DR. And then after that, she had a business where she was selling different like jewelry, and then she was selling makeup, and then she was doing all kind of things. But she was always had that mindset of working for herself and saving up to build her real estate business, basically. My mom is huge in real estate investment, and she have a lot of real estate properties in my country. And growing up, that was something that I really, really look up to her, how she care a lot about money and like saving up for us and for us to go to college too.
So your mom sounds like a force, just like you're a force, because I'm super excited to have you on the podcast. You came to the United States just in 2015 at age 17. You graduated college with an accounting degree. You founded Max Up, a career consulting company. You're a paid content creator, and you're an associate financial analyst at Google. 7 years ago, you didn't speak English. What? How's this possible?
Yeah, so growing up in another country, our language is Spanish. So we never really had the opportunity, or at least I never had the opportunity to learn English in speak fluently. And so coming into the US, that was the first thing that I faced as a barrier. How do I even adapt and adjust in a country where the language is a whole different one than the one I know? And aside from that, it was also the fact that I moved right into New York. And if you know or ever been to New York, you know, hustle is one of the things that it's really big in New York. And so for me, it was like, how do I really become this person with hustle? And like, how do I go out and fight for my dreams if I don't even speak the language? And so what I had to do to overcome that obstacle was literally doing the impossible. I would literally walk 30 minutes every day to a public library near my house. And what I basically did was taking free classes from a college student who was teaching others for free how to speak English. And so I would do that. And I did that for about a year. And that wasn't enough because, again, I was really basic. I didn't know how to even have a conversation in English. And when I attempted to go to college, guess what happened? I got rejected because I couldn't speak the language. And so now think about a 16-year-old teenager whose life purpose was to go to college, but she can't even get into college because she doesn't speak the language of the country that she lives in. That's kind of like where everything started for me. And the fact that I learned English about 3 years ago, that I can like truly say I was able to confidently speak English, is something that it's like mind blowing for me.
I think that's mind-blowing for everybody. How hard was that? How scary was that to put yourself into the situations like the library and force yourself? Because you knew you wanted to get to like a certain level, right? But
Yeah.
getting there is not an easy process.
Absolutely. And I can tell you that one of the first things that was really, really hard for me was understanding that it was okay to fail. And I feel like a lot of us as human beings are not okay with failing. We're not okay with understanding that having a growth mindset is what really drives us forward. And for me, failing at such a young age and then becoming a disappointment to my parents who literally sacrificed everything to bring me and my brothers to the US, for me that was something that was unbearable. I couldn't believe that I was already failing when I was 16, and that my story was going to be another one of those failure stories. And so having to overcome that before everything else was the biggest challenge for me. But once I understood that like it's okay to fail, I feel like I started to adopt a little bit more to what I wanted to do here in the country. But then thinking about going into the library, spending most of my time with people that were facing the same challenges that I was facing, and not being able to even go to a store and ask for something just because I couldn't understand or couldn't ask for it because I didn't speak the language was really hard and took a toll on me. And that's something that people don't talk about, right? Like the emotional part and how it can really affect us. And so becoming an adult in such an early age, right? I think by the age of 17, I was already an adult. I was working two jobs. I was going to college. I was supporting my family financially. And so doing all these things at such a young age sort of like helped me, but also like put me in a situation where I had to become an adult before I even reached past teenage age. And so for those of you that are listening, I just want to say that, a lot of, especially this generation, because I'm a Gen Z, and I think that's important to mention, right? Like I turned 24 last week, and I'm one of those people that was born in the late 90s, almost 2000s, and so for us, it might not be, or it might not seem that it's a challenge, but it is a challenge, and there's a lot of things that this generation it's facing, especially when it comes to people who are first gens, to people who are financially supporting their families. As an immigrant, I had to support my family financially ever since I came to this country. And not only my family here, but then my family back in my home country. And figuring out how to do that was also like a really, really big challenge for me.
Stephanie, you mentioned DR, the Dominican Republic. What would life have been like if you had stayed in, is it Los Mameas,
Yes.
Dominican Republic? What would life have been like?
Yes, so I was born and raised in this little small town called Los Mameyes in the Dominican Republic. And when I think back at what my life was before moving to the States, I think like it was a very different, interesting lifestyle for sure. I think like for me, it was mostly about going to school, then going back home. I never really had this thing of like going out. I never had a job in the DR up until I came to the US, right? Because I was so young and I was just focusing in finishing high school and then coming in here. That's when I had my very first job experience. But when I think about what my life could have been if I was in the Dominican Republic, it would have been very differently. I'm not sure if Max Up would be something that would exist today. I'm not sure if the opportunities that I have today would have happened if I were to be there, just because there's a lot of things that unfortunately wouldn't get access to. And coming here, I had access to all of these things. I mean, who knows? I probably wouldn't have even been on this podcast if I would have been in the DR, just because my English wouldn't be where it is now, right? And so when I think about all those things, I think like all the sacrifices and having to leave everything I knew and come to a country where I knew no one was a challenge, but it was also, I like to say, a blessing in disguise.
Well, I know that you came here, I think, with two suitcases and a dream. Like, what would a dream in the DR look like? And then talk about when you came to the United States, what did that dream, like, is it boundless, this dream coming here?
Yeah, a dream in the DR would have been to continue my mom's path and like having my own business. What that business looked like, I didn't know because I just had that mindset of I want to build something. I've always had that mindset where I've always wanted to build something on my own. I wanted to make sure that I could help others as I built things as well. So for me, the dream was to build something and then leave a legacy in my country. And I think that's something that I brought with me to the US. And that was also part of the dream that I brought to the US, which is basically building a legacy while I'm alive. I'm one of those people that says that you don't have to die to leave a legacy in the world. You can leave a legacy while you're still alive. And so that's what inspired me to start Max Up in 2019 and to create content about job search and to create content and just pretty much help people in any way I could. And that was a dream. So I'd say at two luggages and one dream. That dream was to leave a legacy while I'm alive.
Is it true that you went to high school at 10 years old?
Yes. Yes. So I went to high school when I was 10 years old. So in the DR, we have a different educational system than the US and other countries. And so when I was 10 years old, I went to high school. I graduated when I was 14. I was the youngest of all of my classes and also the youngest of my graduating class. But finishing high school at 14, and then for me, I thought I was graduating college at 18. That was basically like the path. And then I ended up graduating college when I was 22. So look at that, right? You never know how early or how late you're gonna start or finish something. I think it's just, a matter of being comfortable enough with accepting risk. So I accepted the risk at a very young age to go to high school and then sort of like start my teenage life while being in high school. And so also accepted risk of finishing school late and graduating late here in the US because of my English barrier.
Yeah, what was that like at 17 when you got rejected? I mean, you talk about failure and being able to learn how to deal with that. But what did that feel like?
It felt like a roller coaster of emotions. So it was basically one day I was okay, another day I was feeling depressed, another day I was feeling sad about myself. I was feeling like a victim. I felt like the system failed me, right? Like I was that, why would I get rejected if I have such good grades, if I had everything they were looking for? But I didn't understand that I just didn't have the English skills that were needed for college. And so at 17, failing college, being rejected from the college I applied to, and then having to wait a couple of months, almost a year, to reapply again, to then being accepted as an ESL. For those of you that don't know, ESL means English as a second language type student. So I still failed the English exams the second time I took them. But because I got a higher grade, they were able to take me in as an ESL. So I took some intensive English classes for the first year in college. I retook the exams, and the third time I was able to pass them and become a regular college student and take regular college classes. So what that means is that I almost wasted, right? If you think about like time, I almost wasted 3 years of my time to start my college journey. But if you think about it from an investment perspective, it was not really a waste, but more so like investing in my future, because thanks to that, I was able to build a lot of like opportunities that I have now.
So how difficult was it to like break through that and still believe that you had this potential and could achieve anything in the world?
I think I had a lot of limited beliefs. So, and that's one of the things that I started, like the reasons why I started my company. I thought that the only path for me was to go to college, graduate, and get a job. And I think a lot of people think about that, but for me, it was like, how do I really make a difference in this country, in the community that I'm in, by just following one path? How about I think about a different path? And so when I had that thought, I told my mom, I want to go into tech. I want to be the first one in my family to work in corporate America. I want to be the first one in my family to graduate from a college in the US. And so that was a shock for my mom and my family, because none of them had the experience and none of them understood why I was pursuing what I was pursuing. And so that by itself was a challenge that took a long time, and that I'm still working on every day to like make my family understand why I made the choices that I made, and why and the reason why I am where I am today. And so there's were different parts of that challenge. There's the mental challenge, so having to wake up every day and overcoming that fear of rejection, the fear of feeling like a failure, the fear of feeling like a disappointment to my family, the fear of not knowing the unknown. So basically, just walking into a blind journey where I knew nothing, right? Because I was one of those students in college that was basically like I knew nothing about how to write a resume, how to get a job, how to apply for recruiting. I didn't know that I needed an internship. First of all, what was an internship? In my country, there's not such a thing, right? And so all of those things combined, the not knowing what was out there was really like what pushed me back, because I was afraid of adversity and I was afraid of continue failing because I didn't know where I was stepping on. And so having to get out of that mindset of not knowing something, but also being afraid to like put myself out there, was like the biggest challenge that I had. And so I remember I was listening to this podcast, and this person was I love listening to podcasts and I love watching tech talks. And this person was talking about the power of your brain and the power of like developing a growth mindset. And I kept thinking about that, like, well, what does that even mean, right? And so he said that a lot of our actions and behaviors are driven by what we have in here. And that sometimes we forget about, feeding our brain. Like we feed ourselves, right? But we don't feed our brain. And so how often do we really read a new book? How often do we spend time like developing that mindset, going in for counseling, and just kind of like maintaining our mental space in the best space that it can be in? And so after I understood like I needed to work on my mindset and understand that I needed to develop a growth mindset, which is basically like understand that failures are just a lesson versus just a failure. And once I was able to develop that mindset, that's when I was able to like not overcome the rejections per se, but learn through them and then like grow. So I think like there's two things, like you grow through rejections, you grow through failures, and then you become a better person in whatever means that is. And so for me, that's what I did, growing through it versus just fighting it. Because why would you fight something that already happened? Like if I got rejected, if I got a failure, why would I, victimize myself or just keep thinking about the past if it already happened versus growing through it, understanding what went wrong, and then sort of like continuing building upon that failure so you can reach that success that you're looking for.
When you didn't know what an internship was, how do you even know what you want?
And that's the thing. I did not know what I wanted. Like I remember in college, my first ever experience was when I spoke with an advisor, and he was talking about internships and big four accounting firms and Wall Street in New York and all this like unknown terms that I had no idea what they meant. And so everyone around me, all of my friends or the college peers, seemed to understand and knew what they wanted. I'm going to go for an internship at this company. I'm going to work for that company. And I just didn't know what I wanted. I mean, I didn't even know how to dress professionally for that matter. And so what I did was letting myself be guided and I found a mentor, and that mentor was my advisor in college. And then eventually I also, seek for mentorship from my peers who knew what they wanted to do. And I asked for help. And this is really hard because a lot of people don't ask for help because they're afraid to be looked down upon. But then I started thinking like I know nothing. And these individuals know what they want. So I started seeking for mentorship. They were able to prepare me during college to know how to write a resume, what I wanted to do, understand what I like to do, and then eventually align that with a company and a role. And that's how I, started doing accounting. And then I found about finance, and then I found tech. And so all of that came after I seek the guidance. And all of that came after I started looking at help as a way of growing instead of seeing a way of like you putting yourself down. And so mentorship in all aspects, business mentorship, career mentorship, personal mentorship, all three, I would say you should have someone who can help you through that. I mean, think about the biggest CEOs of the companies in the world, right? They have a mentor, they have a coach next to them, an advisor, someone who tells them what's the next step, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. And so these people that have found success have a mentor and let themselves be guided. Why wouldn't we do that? And I always had that in my mind, and I wasn't afraid to ask for help when I had to.
And it sounds like you listened. You listened really well. Talk about walking past Google's Manhattan offices with your mom and having too big of a dream.
So one day, and as I said earlier, I came to New York in 2015, and that was the only city I knew in the U.S. So in 8th Avenue in Manhattan, I was walking with my mom. We were trying to buy some stuff at the store in the corner of 8th Avenue, and we passed by the Google office. And I remember I pointed that office out to my mom, and I said, "Mom, I will work there one day." And then she looked at me, and she sort of laughed, and she said, "You're dreaming too big, Stephanie." My mom didn't really know much about like what was going on at Google or what people did really, but she knew that that was a platform that she would search things up every day. So for me to even say that I was going to work there, she thought I was too big of a dream. And I looked at her and I said, "Mom, I will work there one day. You'll see." And that was in 2018. Fast forward in 2020 when I got the offer for my internship, and then of course develop into full time. But the first time I got my offer for the internship in 2020, I called my mom. I didn't tell anyone. I waited until I got the written offer, and when I had it in front of me, I called my mom and I told mom, "Hey mom, I got the offer at Google." And she sort of like didn't sound surprised at all, which was interesting to me. Like I thought she would be surprised. And then she said, "See, I knew you were going to get it. And I told her, Mom, but you told me that was dreaming too big. And then she said, No, I told you that because I wanted to motivate you so that you can give yourself, some challenge, because you're the type of person that you need to be challenged in order for you to give out your 110%. So she knew how I work best. She told me I couldn't do it. And then I proved her wrong. And that's how I was able to land my dream offer and just kind of like tell the world that like it's okay to dream too big because no dream is big enough.
Your mom's grandmaster plan. She's like the
I love that,
mastermind pulling the
right?
strings.
Of this big plan that I didn't even plan, but I was a star of a plan that didn't even know that existed, but I guess it did.
So talk about being a first gen Latina and like how do you break a generational curse? I saw that phrase mentioned in an article that you were in.
Yes. So talking about generational curses, right? In my family, I'm the first one to go to the US and speak English. I'm the first one to go to a college in the US, the first one to graduate in a college in the US, the first one to work in corporate America, the first one to work in tech. I mean, so many first ones, right? But then it's like everyone in my family seemed to repeat the same path. Everyone, after graduating from college and finding a husband and growing and raising in a family, which is great. But how about our personal goals? I feel like in my family specifically, women sacrifice a lot to do a lot for others. But what about them? What about their dreams? What about what they wanted to achieve? And I also wanted to show people in my country. I mean, I don't know if you read stories about the Caribbean countries and the youth and how like there's not that much opportunity sometimes for people to like really reach their biggest potential. And I wanted to break that generational curse. I wanted to be that person that achieved the impossible, the unachievable, right? And I didn't know what that would look like, but then being able to support my family financially at the age of 17, being able to achieve all of these things that I've achieved at such a young age is kind of like breaking that generational curse, because I know my children in the future, I know the upcoming generation now have someone to look up to, because they can say, this women, this young girl at the age of 20, at the age of 19 started her own company. This young Latina leader started her, um, creating content when she was 19 and became sort of like almost famous on a social media platform that wasn't even known for being a content creator platform, and this woman did this and that, and it's just like they can see themselves through me, and then now I have a responsibility to open doors for them, because every opportunity that I get, it's an opportunity for them to be at in the future. And that's the way I see it. And so that's a way for me to break generational curses, because as you all may know, being a first gen is not an easy task. You literally have this pressure on your shoulders that you carry on every single day, because you want to make your parents proud, you want to make your family proud. You have a whole country that's literally looking up to you to open opportunities for them, right? You have a lot of generation. I mean, when I think about I'm a Gen Z, sometimes I think like I have the whole generation looking up to me to open opportunities and to break the generational curses. And so for me, it's a responsibility, it's a challenge, it's a commitment to do better and to open up for others. And so breaking generational curses as a first gen has been the most rewarding experience of my life. Not for me, not even like just for my family or my country, but I'm thinking in the future, the people that are coming. I have sat down with people that, are 50, 60 years old. People have grandchildren, people have children, and they say, I have a daughter your age right now. And the fact that I can tell her, hey, speak with Stephanie about, what you want to do and how you can do it. Like I see you and I see promise for my daughter. I see opportunities for my daughter. And that's what I want to see that we create in the future. And so that's what it means to break generational curses. That's what it means to prosper. And prosperity wealth building, I mean, think about wealth building. That's such a huge topic for us. Like growing up in a Hispanic country, wealth building is not really something that's spoken about. I told you about my mom raising us with that wealth building mentality, but that was us. But that's not really what society tells us, right? And so I had to break through that to let my family and people in my country see that there are ways in which you can build wealth, prosperity, and better things for you and the upcoming generation by breaking those stigmas and doing what's not on the status quo. And that's what it means to break generational curses.
I think some people, if they're first gen, that pressure, that weight that they're carrying on their shoulders, that can be, a hindrance for them. Like it becomes too much. How do you deal with that pressure? Or is it the same way that your mom tells you that your dream's too big and you're just like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong?
You know, I think like it's important to understand that like everyone have a way to drain out the bad energy and then take it. So this is what I mean. Every day I take in energy from different sources, whether that is reading my favorite book, speaking with someone, being in a podcast with you, right? Like all of these things bring in inside energy that I can use for other things. At the same time, I find ways to drain out bad energy from myself. And that means all those thoughts, overthinking, feeling like an imposter, feeling like I shouldn't be here, feeling like I need to be the perfect person because others are looking up to me. All of those thoughts, I sort of drain them out one way or another, whether that is doing my favorite thing, stop thinking about it. Like I do so many different things to not let those things get to me. But the thing is like, they always get to you. And it's okay to like affirm and like confirm that it's okay that there are days that you're not going to do great. There are days when I'm not at my 100%. There are days I'm just at my 50%. So what do? If I have 50% energy, I'm going to give that 50% up to something. And I'm not going to feel bad about the fact that I didn't give 100% to it. And that's kind of what I want to leave everyone with in a message is like, we think about this hustling mindset and it's like you have to be perfect in everything you do and it's sort of like hurts people instead of helping them. So for me it's like I no longer leave that path of like I want to be perfect on everything and I want to have my 100% on everything. Instead I just give whatever percentage I have on my cup that day or that a specific event and I refill my cup every time that I need to. And so this leads me to what, the biggest topic right now is, which is mental health. So people that are first gen carry a lot of mental health struggles because of the responsibility that are put upon us. And so we need to carry on that and carry on that way that it's building up in our minds. And then it's just like, how do we really get out of that? One of the things that we need to understand is that it is not your responsibility to build for others. You do it because you want to. You do it because it comes out from you. And you can do, as much as you can. But I feel like because we have that pressure, people feel like obligated that they need to do it. And I'm here to tell people just do what you can. And whatever you couldn't do, don't feel disappointed on yourself because it didn't happen for a reason. And I always tell my parents, like, okay, we couldn't build up our own house, 3 years ago. That's okay. I mean, how many people wait until they're 40 to get their own house? Like, it's a matter of like us being patient about things and like not feeling disappointed because we couldn't provide what we wanted to. Like, I've always had the dream of giving my mom a car, of giving my mom a house. I haven't achieved that yet. And I sometimes feel disappointed on myself because I've achieved so many things that I could have do that for my mom, but then I think I'm 24, right? So like
Exactly. You're only 24.
it's only 24. So how can I really do all of that when I just started like, building that momentum? And so that's what people need to like think about. Like you're just starting building that momentum and then you don't have to do everything at once. So enjoy things as they come. Be patient on yourself, give yourself grace for what you have achieved, and then educate others. A lot of us are afraid to educate our families, our loved ones, educate people around us about things that they should know. Like my parents didn't really understand the sacrifices, the hard work that it takes to like build up a career in the US. And I have had to educate them so they understand why we have to wait to get certain things, right? And so we need to educate others on things that they don't understand, especially our families, so they can support us instead of being on the other side because your support system cannot drain your energy. That doesn't even make sense. But then when you ask people around, if you do a survey and you ask people, especially first gens, they will tell you my family or my loved ones or my close relatives drains out my energy and they are my support system. How does that even make sense? So we need to understand how we can build up people that can, help us relieve our energies and drain out energy from other sources, not our support system.
I want to ask you about LinkedIn because as of this recording, you have almost 170,000 followers.
Yay.
What is the importance of having a following on social media and a platform like LinkedIn?
That's the $1 million question. I feel like you're gonna get the nuggets and the gems of the $1 million question that people keep asking. So, for those of you that are listening, I have been creating content on social media, especially on LinkedIn, for the past 3 years, and it's been a compounded growth ever since. The reason why it's important to create a brand and to have this many followers is not for the popularity. We're not in a popularity test here. We're not fighting against other famous people here. What we're doing is creating wealth opportunities. We are creating opportunities for paid opportunities, but we're also creating opportunities for others. So I create content about job searching. I help others land their dream jobs through the content that I share. So the best reward for me, it's for people to land jobs. And I'll do whatever I can, whether that is creating free guides, doing LinkedIn Lives, doing whatever I can. And that's why it has grown to where it is now, because my best reward is to really give value to others and for them to get what they want to do. Now, when I think about my own opportunities, if you get a good brand and you get a good following, that brand will carry on with you forever. If you're looking for press opportunities, if you're looking for a promotion, if you're looking to get a new job, if you're looking to get paid opportunities to build your own business, all those 6 things that I just mentioned can be done if you grow your brand on social media, especially on LinkedIn. And that's what I've been able to do through the past 3 years, aside from like building my own business, because what people don't know is that I have spent $0 on advertising for my company. I've never paid an ad for my company. I've never done it. Why? Because I have created content. I have found a formula that works for me so that my content connects and reflects back to my brand and my company. Hence, clients just kind of roll through me to my company. And at the same time, I've been able to build a brand that has allowed me to build up side hustles like pay speaking gigs, pay sponsor posts, paid opportunities, and then that has translated into the platforms because I also do creation on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, and literally on every other social media platform. And so, going back to your question and summarizing, the importance of building up a brand and building up a following is for what you want to achieve. So people that just started and they don't know what they want. So if you find the reason why you want to do it in the first place, whether it's to have a business, your brand, grow, get money, whatever the case may be, find the reason and then like create the content and build the following based upon that. That for me was the most important thing. Like after I understood what I wanted to do, help people build opportunities for paid deals. When I find those two reasons, I build it upon that, and that's why it's important to have the big following and the big fame, as people call it.
What role did LinkedIn have in your landing a job at Google?
Great question. So even before I landed my job there, I was already creating content on LinkedIn. I think I connected with about 7 to 10 employees of the company way before the application opened. And it was because of my content through LinkedIn. We've done LinkedIn Lives together. I remember when I was hosting in 2020 when the pandemic happened, I was basically doing a lot of free events with people on LinkedIn. And a lot of these people were recruiters, hiring managers, professionals that worked at these big companies. And I met like 7 to 10 people from the company that I built the relationship. I kept following up. They kept seeing my content. I was able to help them connect with others for opportunities. And so because of that, they were willing to do mock interviews with me. They were willing to tell me how to best prepare for the opportunity. Once the opportunity opened and I apply, you know, I was already prepared. My resume was already prepared for it. I was prepared for the interview. All of that happened because I met people through the platform. I hosted people through my platform. I literally made like I tell people, like, do not wait until the opportunity comes up to you, like be prepared for it. So I prepare in advance. I want to say 6 to 8 months in advance for the opportunity. And once it opened, I just grab it and I literally made it my own. And so I built the network and I established the relationships and I was able to like leverage LinkedIn through that so that it can help me when the application opened that I applied and got the job.
Yeah, your preparation is impressive because I think that so many people wait until the last minute and they're just submitting their internship application. It's like in the 11th hour, they're trying to get it all finished and submitted. You really took the time. And what's really impressive is not only did you take the time to prepare, but you leveraged LinkedIn's platform not to just post a resume or to use it to search for like job opportunities. You used the platform to build real relationships and to have conversations with people so that you could learn how can you improve your chances at landing the internship.
Absolutely. And I think that's what a lot of people fail to do. And a lot of people don't understand. And if you're listening to this podcast, I just want to clarify, like, LinkedIn is not just a platform to get a job. It's not just a platform where you can just post your resume and forget about it. It's a platform that can get you so many opportunities. I mean, I landed my dream job through it. I've built paid opportunities through the platform. I've gotten press opportunities through the platform. I got a whole managed, creator manager that helped me with my content now. I mean, there's so many opportunities that have come with me just creating content for people and just being active on the platform. And I'm not going to go that far with creating content. Like, say you don't want to create content, but you still want to use the platform. You can still use the platform, right? To like connect with other people and like being active on it and still get opportunities. So being, I want to say proactive is the word to use if you either want to land a job or use the platform the right way. It's just being proactive and finding ways that work for you.
As you've evolved as a creator, how do you set your goals? And what is your mindset around how much time do you spend creating? Because you do have a full-time job and then you also have Max Up your company. Like, how do you manage all of this?
Yes, so I have about 5 calendars. So my best friends and my family knows if you're not in my calendar, it's not happening. So if you're going out with me or you inviting me to an event, if it's not on my calendar, I'm not doing it. I follow my calendar like a Bible, literally. Like I have built that discipline where it's like everything is on my calendar. Even if I'm going to watch TV, it sounds a little extreme, but even if I'm going to watch TV, it's on my calendar because it has allowed me to be able to do, as you said, all the things that I do, like going to my 9 to 5, and then after that in the evening working on Max Up, doing events, creating the content. I have this routine, I want to call it a habit that I've been teaching. So I coach people now on content creation and how to monetize. And one of the things that I tell my coachees and mentees is um, I have a routine on Sundays that I sit down. It could be a Sunday, it could be any day of the week. Like my muse of content creation, it's on today. So I'm going to sit down today after this call and create all the content for next week. And I already have two of them drafted. Right before this call, I was thinking about something and I just started writing down. I already have two posts for next week. And so for me, it's like I use one day of the week to, let creativity shine and then put together all the content that I'll share the week after or 2 weeks after or even the month after. And that's how I save up time on content creation. And then I align the other time that I have for my clients in MaxUp. And then, of course, like working in my 9 to 5. So if you build up a discipline routine that, helps you drive forward everything, that's the best way to do it. So for me, it's my calendar. So if everything is on my calendar, I will do it. And that's like the best thing for you if you're thinking about building up that consistency when it comes to content creation and whatnot.
What's your goal for frequency of posting on LinkedIn?
I started off creating about 1 or 2 posts per week, and once I saw the value of creating content, I started doing it more frequently. So I know people post 2, 3 times a day. That's not something that's with me, because for me, it's a quick way to burn out. Now, if you can do it, by all means, do it. Right. But for me, I try my best not to burn out when creating content. So I create 3, 4, maximum 5 times a week. I do it on a consistent time. So everyone that follows me knows exactly what time I post every single day, pretty much. And so that's like kind of the consistency that I've
What
built.
time do you post?
Yeah. So 9 a.m. Eastern time, and that's New York time, and that will be 6 a.m. Pacific.
And give us a little context, like how long were you just posting consistently and kind of plugging away and not seeing a lot happening? Because I know that in your experience, you've had some really big viral posts happen. So I just want to
Yeah.
know, like, what has growth looked like for you?
Yeah. So I want to say the first viral post I had was in 2020. And that was the first time I've ever shared my story on LinkedIn. It was when I landed my dream internship, actually. And I was so shocked because it happened in a matter of 4 hours. I was like, it got 1 million impressions in 24 hours. I was blown away because I've been on other social media platforms. I've been on Instagram. And I never saw this kind of growth happening. And I saw an opportunity. Um, Before that, I barely only posted about like conferences and that I was attending an event. Like I never had a consistency. But when my first post went viral and I saw the opportunity open, I said, there's something here. Let's see what I can build. And so I started creating content twice a week, and then I started doing 4 times a week, and then more posts started becoming more viral. And so that kind of like kept me going. And then I understood like it's not really about like how viral a post is, but like the consistency. I have posts that up to this day don't do well. And people get frustrated when that happens. What I do is learn. So this didn't do well. That's okay. Let's do the next one. Like I just keep it going. And I think like what a lot of people don't understand that this is not an overnight success. This is not like TikTok that you put a video one day and you're like famous overnight, right? Like this is something that I've been creating the content for such a long time that like, yes, I got a post, I got like 100,000 likes and like 5 million impressions last year. But think about all the years before that I was creating content, right? And so people don't see the behind the scenes and they don't really understand that it's not an overnight process. It's a compounded effort. I remember like, this is a fun story, but in 2020, if a post of mine got to 100 likes, I would call that post a successful one.
Yeah, that's me now.
I think I don't know. I had that mindset before, and now it's like I don't really look at it this way anymore. It's just like I feel like 100 likes is kind of like now because of the growth is the minimum for me. But it's like I don't see it that way anymore. For me, it's like if I got a couple of comments and if I got a message through it, and if that message converted into something like a lead or something else, then that post was successful. And so it's not really about the likes, it's not really about the impression. I know it sounds a little cliche, but it's for me, it's about more conversion. Because how many people are like really good at like creating that momentum, but then the conversion never happens, right? And I feel like that's what's important for me. It's like conversion, whatever that means. It doesn't have to be just opportunities, but whatever that means to you, that's what matters to me now.
If conversion is your goal and not the reactions, how does that influence like what you're posting, the topic, or how you're crafting your post? Does it?
Hmm, I don't, I think it has never been conversion what drives my post. Because if you look at my content, right, I share a lot of tips and tricks of people that want to land a job. And you would say, well, you want to get career coaching clients. So it makes sense that you're posting about that. But I never posted a post saying, I'm going to post about resume today because I want to get a resume client. It has never been that case. It's more so like, let me share a valuable advice. And if people find something valuable in that, I mean, I would love for people to come, as clients eventually, once I've seen enough content that they think that I could be valuable to them. But it's never been like, I'm thinking about how I can convert a client. So today I'm going to post about this and that, right? Like I never had that mindset. It's more so like the value driven, like how can I add value to someone today? And then it just happens to happen that organically that conversion has happened, but it has never been like what drives my content. And I think like my content has evolved throughout the years. Like now I share a lot more trending topics that I shared before, and I think I've done that now because I want to stay relevant. And that's something I like. And for me, it's conversion, but also staying relevant. Because how many people create content, but they don't stay relevant because their content doesn't evolve as like people enjoy different type of content, like more long term or like more videos or whatever the case may be. So I evolve with my content so that people can keep reading, basically.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like pretty organic. It's not this calculated plan. Like you don't have this master plan that you're creating for a specific goal with each post. It's kind of like you want to help people, you're getting inspired to write something, you're going to post that, and then it just happens organically to see what performs well, what doesn't. If there
I mean,
are, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, if you think about the most famous people on LinkedIn, there was a list that came out of like 200 top LinkedIn, I think, creators, and like, if you look at most of them, I want to challenge and I want to bet that I don't think they have a goal for each of the posts that they share. I think like what they do, it's more so like on a long-term strategy. So if I create content for this amount of time in the future, in the next 3 months, the next 6 months, I'll see this amount of growth, right? I can tell you the best example. I was coaching someone who was actually in our cohort for the LinkedIn Accelerator program. And I coached that person for 4 months before he got into the program. So before coaching that person, he was sharing on LinkedIn, but not really having the success that he was looking for. And then fast forward 4 months later, he got in the same program that I got. He's getting opportunities for like paid opportunities and all these things. And so for us, it was never about each post, we're going to get something. We were looking at a combine. So how much impressions do you get this month? What can we do better next month? So it was always a long-term strategy. When I think about the most successful people on LinkedIn, they always have that mindset behind of like the long-term combined efforts and combined success versus like individual posting, because you would never, I mean, you can use that for perfectioning and I guess like evolving your content per se, but not necessarily for like your really overall success. As more so like looking at a long term and looking more like a combined effort.
Do you look at data to guide what you're creating? Do you try to get some feedback from what the data tells you?
100%. I think I think I love, I mean, I'm a financial analyst. I'm an accountant too. I love data. I love numbers. And I've always looked at like how many impressions I've had in the past few months, in the past year, what was the top performing post and why it was the top performing post. I looked at all these metrics because I want to understand what can I use, what type of format can I use in the future. So for example, I realized that for my audience, what works best is when I'm personal about whatever I'm sharing. So even if I'm sharing like a really technical thing, if I'm personal about it, if I use storytelling. So a skill that I mastered early on in my life was storytelling. I use that for my interviews. I use that for everything. And storytelling, it's like one of the best skills to have if you're creating content. And so when I was able to see that people really like my storytelling because the way I share the content seems more like they're reading a book versus they're reading a post. So if my audience enjoyed that more, then I kept working on that. And the way that I was able to find that out was by looking at the top performing posts and seeing like how I described those posts. And so looking at the data and looking at the numbers really works well for me. And so I always look at that on a weekly, on a monthly. I always do. I'm actually going to post about that next week, my like year recap in terms of like every month. And that's kind of like looking at the top and downs, like what was the best and what was the worst. And I'm going to share that on LinkedIn. And I do that every year because I want to see my recap of the year and like what did I do best and what did I not. And all of that, I do that through the numbers. I do that by looking at analytics.
That makes sense. You can let the data guide you to show what's working well for your audience. And that's going to be unique for you as a content creator versus me versus somebody else, because right, our audiences are different and maybe different formats perform better. That's interesting. Do you shop for brand deals and speaking gigs in different ways to monetize, or is that pretty organic too?
Yeah, I think I've gotten that question before, and it's interesting. I've never shopped for a brand deal before. I don't have an email template that I send to this brands. I don't. I have a portfolio. I have my past examples. I have all you need from a creator side, but I don't do the outreach, or I haven't done the outreach. Reason why, it's because a lot of it has happened organically as I've built my brand. Brands reach out to me and then we make it happen. So that's kind of how it's been happening for me. I think like even with speaking gigs, like I've spoken in like, I don't know, over 25, 35 universities across the country and in Canada and other countries too. And all of it happened organically as I grew the platform and I grew Max up as well. And so with this, I do want to say that outreach works wonders for people. And so if you find a good way to sell, if you find, first of all, if you find your selling point, and if you find a way to sell yourself, which comes back to storytelling, if you find a way to sell yourself well through outreach, by all means do it, because you don't lose anything by reaching out to someone. I just haven't done it because it just happens to happen that I get this organically. But if people find that outreach works for them, they should definitely continue doing that, and find their niche and then finding the best way to sell themselves. Because trust me, I don't think no one wants to get a spamming email from someone like emailing 5 times. But if you find a way to connect genuinely, and I think the best type of outreach is like um, through someone else, right? So if you find a way to like someone can introduce you to someone and you just keep that, I guess you can call it referral or networking way. I think that's the best type of outreach. So if you can do that first, and then the last like resource is like cold outreach, I think like that's kind of the best way for like brand building deals. And then of course, like once you've done a couple of them, or you have a really strong, you know, background with brand deals, they will come to you, of course.
Stephanie, how do you feel your company feels about you being a content creator too? Because I've seen different things. I've seen some content creators who say that my company supports it. They see the value. They see the value of me as an employee creating content and helping people and having a following. But then there are other people who say, oh, I want to hide it from my company, or my company doesn't like it. They don't even, they do not support it.
I will give you this example, and I think that's the best way to describe it. When I was in my internship, that was my first viral post, with like me landing the internship opportunity. And I got, I want to say like 10 messages internally from other employees saying like, hey, I read your story on LinkedIn. I would love to grab a coffee chat. Like, for me, that was mind blowing, because thinking like, whoa, like they really like this, they really like the fact that I'm able to share my story. They want to connect with me. They want to establish coffee chat. That for me was mind blowing. And so even my manager, like when we connected the first time, he says he loves like my content and what I share. And so I think they see the value on us being like sharing our stories and like inspiring others on how we made it happen. And so I feel like, as I said, like every company will have their own different like cultures. Um, but I've been really like grateful to have like peers and like coworkers and like even my manager who really enjoys reading my content, and seeing what I do on the side, because they love to see that like hustling mindset that I have, and they love to see that I bring that same mindset when I'm at work as well.
Yeah. So they see it as an overall, they see it as a benefit and an asset that you're on the team. They don't see it as taking away from what you're able to provide.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, like what people don't understand is that we are overperformers at our jobs. Like we do our jobs in the best of our abilities, and then we create content on the side, right? So this is kind of what we do, and the fact that we bring on different perspectives too, right? Because being a content creator, you learn, you know things, you change value with other people that you're then able to bring into the team. You're then able to like bring that different mindset and perspective, and I think like that's really valuable.
Well, credit to you, Stephanie, because I think it is part of Gen Z having 5 calendars. Like Gen X, we did not grow up having, like, we didn't have an option to be a content creator on LinkedIn or other platforms. It just didn't exist. So there was not a need. It was like a simpler time. I didn't need to have 5 calendars. So kudos to you for being able to manage all of that. I like to ask all the Inspired Money guests, how do you define success?
I want to say that success is whatever it means to you, because other people will try to put their definition of success onto you, and then that's what leads to comparison, and comparison is a thief of joy. And so don't compare yourself to other people's successes and whatever success means to you. And if that means building a business or buying a house, or landing your next opportunity, if that's success for you, then that's success. And so that's how I define success. For me personally, success, I'll split it to you in two ways. Success in a day means if I get a message from someone saying, Stephanie, your content today inspired me to apply for this job, or your content today helped me with this interview that I had, that for me is success in one day. Success in the long term is looking back. If I was able to help at least one person, my mission is accomplished. My company's mission statement, Max Up, is maximize the potential of the future leaders of the nation. And so if I'm able to maximize someone's potential today, then my long-term goal and dream and success is found. Of course, as anyone else, I do have personal goals and personal successes that I've been sharing on LinkedIn as well. But all of those successes build up for the bigger one. The bigger one for me is the legacy, what I was telling at the beginning. So if I can create legacy while I'm alive, and if that legacy means helping someone else, then success for me is found.
Well, I love this mission of helping people to find their dream jobs. I mean, the impact is so great and you're touching so many people. And of course, if you can buy your mom the car, that will be like a tangible, very tangible
That's
goal.
coming. It's on my, I don't know if people here have, but I have a vision board. And in my vision board, I have buy my mom a car, helping her. I mean, I already did one, which was to I flew her out and my dad for my graduation this year. So that was like a check on my vision board for success. But my next ones are to buy my mom a car and a house and all the other ones.
All right, one more last question for you. I still can't wrap my head around like how you manage your time as a content creator, as a CEO, as a financial analyst at Google. You also lost over 100 pounds in the last year.
Yes.
How do you find the time to also focus on like your physical health?
So last year, it was around my birthday last year as well. I made the decision to change that, because think about it. How was I going to be able to manage all of the things that you just described if my personal health was affected? How was I being able to like give my 100% if I was not internally good and in that 100% state? And so I took it upon myself to work on my fitness goals. I started going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. I bought personal gym items, a treadmill, a lot of things to do exercises at home for the days I couldn't go to the gym. I started eating healthy, prepare meal preps. I did so many different things, and I established my fitness work around my schedule. So if I had to wake up really early in the morning or go to the gym really late at night, I would do that. But I put it as a priority. So I have a list of like, I don't know if you've seen that little like square where it's like your needs, your wants, what's not really important, whatever else. So what was priority for me and a need was my job, my other job, my content creation part, and then my health and my fitness health. And all of that, I did it every day. So it sounds like I don't sleep. I promise I do. But I do have a really packed schedule. Like if you look at my calendar, someone would say I'm crazy. But it's really packed every day. But I love it like that because it has, allowed me to lose 114 pounds this year. It has allowed me to grow my business 3x and land so many amazing things like Spotify, which I'm really happy for. So it's just really a matter of like prioritizing. So sometimes you gotta say no to that friend outing or that watching or binging that Netflix show if you really want to get to your goal. Even as hard as it sounds, we got to sacrifice some of our wants sometimes.
Well, thank you for making time for us. Congratulations on your biggest brand deal with Spotify to date. Tell everybody where they can follow you and learn more.
Yes, you can find me on all social media as my name, Stephanie Nuesi. I'm literally everywhere. You can also find my company there. And if you found interesting, I have a lot of free resources and articles on my website. So if you're looking for help with anything, content creation, getting a job, all of it is free on my website. So take advantage of that. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Stephanie. So what was your favorite inspired money moment? I don't know how Stephanie does it all. Full-time job, career coaching, social media brand deals, and then she still made time to prioritize her health through fitness. My favorite inspired money moment was the way that Stephanie has succeeded in the face of failure and rejection. That's the takeaway for me. Be persistent, be resilient, never give up. If you had a different favorite inspired money moment, please post a comment below or share it in the Inspired Moneymakers Facebook group at inspiredmoney.fm/Facebook. Thank you for tuning in to the end. Be sure to subscribe to my email that goes out every 2 weeks. It's investment focused, and the Runnymede investment team highlights data, news, and events that we think are worth sharing. Subscribe at inspiredmoney.fm/newsletter. Thank you for joining me on this mission. Have an inspired week and do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.